Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Traditional Sunday community chat and fundraising. Although, of course, I have prepared a new segment for you with some major, with news on some major developments, and of course, new segment goes first, and after that, I will join community chat, and will take time. This is a community chat first of all, and will take time to react on all possible questions or the comments that will be directed to me. Hopefully, this stream will work out well. Last Sunday's fundraising stream did okay, and hopefully this one will do also. And I will have to be less stressed during the work next week. And it is important for new members here, friends. I will just say that this project only exists thanks to support of our community, and it is what it is, right? So I'm really dependent on this assistance. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to maintain this project. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Of course, during the stream, you can use, if you want to donate to the project, you can use our PayPal platform, Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon or Boosty pages. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And also during the stream, to support, you can use a super chat feature on Rumble or become a premium subscriber. Everything counts, dear friends. And during the stream, community chat, I will share information whenever there will be any support and donation, as I always do. Okay, that's been said, let's go through some news. And even though, dear friends, major news for this morning is, of course, this information about decision of Washington to send thousands of cruise missiles to Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And I have a lot to say about it, news itself, and what this might mean. But nevertheless, first, let's go through some other news. And for example, we have this report from TASS News Agency, which is based on Russian Defense Ministry's update that during the past night, Russian air defense systems intercepted 95 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with the assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Drones were intercepted over the Bryansk, Tverka, Luga, Oryol, Tambov, Novgorod, Belgorod, Rostov, Kursk, Smolensk, Samara, Leningrad regions, by the way. So quite a vast geography, unfortunately, of this NATO strikes. It's a NATO strikes, by the way. Let's not fool ourselves, isn't it? Without NATO providing drones themselves, targeting the data and the flight path for these drones, Kiev regime would not be able to do this, right? So it's a NATO strikes, and let's say it as it is. Republic of Crimea and Republic of Tatarstan were also attacked during this relatively large-scale attempt of NATO and their proxy regime to strike deep into Russia. Well, this is not all, dear friends. Unfortunately, not all drones, as we all know, can be intercepted 100% of times. No air defense systems in this world are actually capable of that, although, of course, we have to admit that Russian air defense systems are the best in the world, and usually intercepting vast majority of the incoming aerial targets. But nevertheless, no air defense system is capable to intercept 100% targets, aerial targets, always, constantly. It's just physically not possible, even theoretically, I guess. And therefore, unfortunately, Kiev regime and its NATO backers did manage to strike several areas during the past night. But first, and I'll give you information on that in a minute, but first let me share with you this information about nuclear terrorism of Kiev regime and NATO. RT and many other media outlets are reporting this morning that Ukrainian drone was shot down near the nuclear power plant, Kursk nuclear power plant, by the way. Kiev regime on regular basis shells targets Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, but unfortunately, Kursk nuclear power plant is also becoming a target more and more often. In last 10 days, this is second attempt of Kiev regime to strike this nuclear power plant. So Ukrainian kamikaze drone has been shot down near the power plant in Russia's Kursk region, part of which had been under the Ukrainian occupation for several months. I don't know why RT is pointing that out, why it is relevant at this point, but nevertheless, this is RT. I mean, sometimes they do stuff that no journalist can understand, I guess. They are pointing out a time frame when Kursk salient was occupied by this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and the NATO mercenaries, but it has nothing to do with Kursk nuclear power plant strike that happened just now. According to their plant's management, in the early hours of Sunday, they intercepted their drone fragments. That's what usually Russian officials say, that it's fragments that always failing and they're causing some damage. So let's take from that. So according to the plant's management, in the early hours of Sunday, they intercepted their UAV, damaged the part of their electrical grid and triggered a small fire. And as I said, this is second time, by the way, second time in last 10 days, I believe, when Kursk nuclear power plant is being targeted by NATO and their Ukrainian proxies. I reported about previous strikes too, I believe. And of course, IAEA was informed about it, by the way, so-called International Atomic Energy Agency, which is a UN body, at least formally, but in reality, of course, this criminal institution is run by US Secret Services, British Secret Services, and Israeli Secret Services. It's just too obvious. I don't think I have to further elaborate on that. We all understand what the hell is going on. And I really don't understand why Russia is still a member of this criminal structure that is run by Russian enemies, right? But nevertheless, I mean, we're still part of or member of this so-called UN body. And look what they are writing, by the way. IAEA is aware of media reports that transformer at the Kursk MPP in Russia has caught fire due to military activity. By the way, when drone failed, or fragments of the drone, as the Russian officials usually say, transformator was damaged in an MPP area, and according to reports I see, third nuclear reactor was basically forced to cut its energy production for 50% or something, right? So it had influence on the work of third nuclear reactor, right? There is no threat of radiation at this point, right? But nevertheless, this is a nuclear terrorism. This is attack on a nuclear power plant. And this is very serious, isn't it? But nevertheless, look what IAEA is saying, that, well, they are aware of media reports, even though Russian side informed them, right, directly. But what IAEA says is they know that there were some reports in the media about attack on a nuclear power plant, as a result of which transformator caught fire. But what they also say is that IAEA has no independent confirmation of this report, right? So they're trying to downgrade this terrorist attack on nuclear power plant. And definitely this raises question, man, why we are still part of it, man. I mean, why Russia is, or any other country, really, is a part of this terrorist criminal organization that has become under strict control of US intelligence service, Israeli intelligence service, and British intelligence service. Why we are playing these games, man? I just have no freaking idea about it, but it is what it is, right? Maybe Russian foreign ministry will make statement today and condemn this irresponsible reaction of IAEA or something, but more needs to be done. We just have to pull out from this freaking criminal organization that it is. It's a criminal organization. It's not really a true body of the UN, right? Because UN has no say in work of this organization. Washington has say. Israeli regime has say, London has say, but not the UN. It's just so obvious, man, so obvious. And this is not a single instance, isn't it? Not just IAEA, but the so-called UN, another UN body about chemical weapons, OPCW or whatever. It's also same stuff, isn't it? How many times enemies of Russia and enemies of humanity going to use these so-called UN bodies to justify their criminal actions, either OPCW or IAEA? It makes no freaking sense for any country to stay to be part of or member of these so-called organizations, man. It makes no freaking sense whatsoever, right? So yet another terrorist attack. And by the way, I think it is a fair game. At this point, I truly think it is a fair game to take out nuclear power plants on Western Ukraine that Kyiv regime is still in control of. If NATO, if Russian enemies want to play this way, then why should not Russia strike nuclear power plants on Kyiv-controlled territory and let their Europeans then deal with the radiation there, right? We can actually do this, isn't it? We can do this and let the Europeans then deal with it, for God's sake, because they are employing these terrorist attacks, right, of the Kyiv regime and NATO on Russian nuclear facilities. So let's strike back, for God's sake. Well, how long this nonsense gonna continue, man? I don't know. Of course, Russian leadership will never authorize strikes on nuclear power plants on Kyiv-controlled territory, but many people would ask questions why. Because it is going to be a fair game. I mean, if enemies of Russia are attacking Russian nuclear power plants, then why should not Russia do the same to its enemies, man? Isn't it? Kommersant newspaper is also reporting that, as I said, by the way, unfortunately, not all aerial targets that NATO and their proxy Kyiv regime is launching towards Russia can be intercepted 100% at a time. And some of the drones are managing to bypass air defense systems, and usually they are striking civilian areas, but time to time industrial areas also. And we have this report this morning from Kommersant newspaper, for example, and all the other media outlets are reporting about it, that Novatek terminal caught fire in a Leningrad region as a result of this NATO-Ukrainian drone attack. So Leningrad region governor Alexander Drozdenko reported that air defense forces eliminated basically 10 drones over the port of Ust-Lug. Another 4 drones were destroyed over the Kingisepsky district of the region, as Drozdenko specified in a Telegram channel, as a result of the fail of the UAV debris. Yet again, this is always what they say, by the way. Their officials never acknowledge that it was a direct strike of their enemy drones. They always say drones were intercepted and fragments failed, and those fragments somehow causing tremendous damage time to time, right? But I don't know who give them this talking point that it's always fragments, by the way. People are laughing at this. I mean, just say it as it is, man. Just say it that, yes, drones unfortunately bypass air defense systems and struck the intended target, whatever it was. Everyone understands here in Russia and worldwide that no air defense systems, even the best one as Russia has, are capable of intercepting 100% of drones at 100% of time, because it's just not possible, period, right? So why information has been manipulated this way, that it's always freaking fragments, mate? But nevertheless, that's the talking point that officials have for whatever reason. And as a result of this fail of their drone debris in the port of Ust-Luga, the Novatek terminal caught fire. According to preliminary information, there are no casualties. According to Rosaviation, St. Petersburg's Pulkovo airport did not accept or release aircrafts between approximately 2100 hours, between 9 o'clock yesterday evening and 4 o'clock this morning, due to these aerial threats. Emergency measures were taken by management of airport, understandably. And at this point, by the way, for 12:15 midday Pulkovo Airport, which is an international airport that serves St. Petersburg, is working in usual scale, in usual way. But during the day, by the way, there was this morning there was more reports about intercepted drones of our enemies, Kiev regime and NATO, over the Leningrad region. For example, at 9:30, RIA Novosti reported that 2 more drones of enemy were intercepted in the Leningrad region, and just about half an hour ago, Russian media reported about another 2 drones that were also intercepted in the Leningrad region. And when it comes to Novatek, by the way, you might wondering what this company does, what terminal this information is about. That was at least partially damaged with this debris of the drone. And well, let me first show you on the map, by the way, area that we are talking about. So this is this former Soviet Republic Ukraine, isn't it? And this is on the northern side, is Ust-Lugar settlement and the industrial hub, basically. And when it comes to Novatek, and this is the area allegedly where drones struck. Novatek, I believe, is a company that actively involved in LNG production and export from the Russian Federation. And of course, whenever there is a strikes in direction of Leningrad region or St. Petersburg, on internet speculations are beginning. Was those drones launched by Kiev regime and NATO from Kiev-controlled territory, or maybe Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, potentially Finland, or maybe even Sweden was used for these strikes? Obviously, I don't know, dear friends, I don't know, but these speculations do make sense, isn't it? Because it is barely believable that these tens of drones reached Leningrad region, bypassing either entire Belarus and then a couple of Russian regions, or through Russian territories, right from Kiev-controlled territory to Leningrad region. I mean, I don't think that is a possibility. So I think it is most likely these drones are launched from NATO territory. My personal opinion, by the way, Russian officials never claimed, I believe, that drones were launched from either of the NATO countries that I just mentioned, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, or Finland, or Sweden, but or Norway, by the way, that borders Russia from most northern part of the coastline. But I think these drones are launched from NATO countries, by the way. Maybe one day we will have actual confirmation, official confirmation of this. But that's my take, because I truly don't believe Kiev regime and NATO drones are launched from Kiev-controlled territory, and they are flying 1,000+ kilometers to strike Leningrad region without being detected and intercepted. It's just not possible, right? So these drones must be, or most likely are launched either from Finland or Estonia, Latvia, Estonia probably. But yet again, this is just my guess. No official statements being made about it, about involvement of these NATO countries by Russian officials. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that a woman and the child was killed as a result of Ukrainian NATO airstrike on a bridge in the Kherson region. So the Ukrainian armed forces and NATO struck the Chernansky Bridge in the Kherson region on Saturday evening, killing a woman and the 11-year-old child. This was reported on the Telegram channel. Information about death of civilians were shared with public by head of the Kakhovka district of the Kherson region, Pavel Filipchuk. Yet another casualties, yet another victims of NATO Western ruling class and their proxy Kiev regime. And just a few days ago, dear friends, I saw a report on one of the Telegram channels that in last 3 years, since the beginning of a special military operation, Kiev regime killed more than 7,000 Russian civilians. Kiev regime and NATO, by the way, killed more than 7,000 Russian civilians. That's a report that I see on one of the Telegram channels, sir. I will search for official confirmation of this news, sir. But I have no reason to doubt that report. It was a bigger Russian Telegram channel, pro-Russian Telegram channel. That is also important. That reported about it. So unfortunately, more victims of this evil force that Western ruling class is. Woman and their 11-year-old child was killed by NATO and Zelensky's forces. Meanwhile, Russian armed forces continue to liberate more and more territories. And yesterday I mentioned this, and I think it's worth to repeat that just in previous 48 hours, let's say, Russian armed forces liberated 5 settlements. That is Vladimirovka and Katerinovka and Rusin Yar in DPR, and also Russian armed forces liberated Klibambik and Srednya in same republic, Donetsk People's Republic. During the day today, we might learn about, or Russian Defense Ministry might confirm information about liberation of some more settlements, and of course I will add that information to my next updates. And now let's talk about one of the main topics of the day, which is this unprecedented scale of escalation that US is engaged now against Russia with agreement to transfer 3,000 plus cruise missiles to Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. I just remind you, dear friends, that Putin, president of Russian Federation, just day before yesterday, while visiting Sarov city, stated that Russia expects full-scale restoration of the relations with the US. That was the attitude, and maybe still is the attitude of Russian president. And also, let me remind you that foreign minister of the Russian Federation, during the interview with the NBC, also day before yesterday, that was, I believe, stated that Russia ready to show flexibility on Trump's Ukraine proposals. And well, despite these positive signals from Moscow, from Russian leadership, you think how US reacted? One might say that, well, expectations would be that, well, US will also take some steps to de-escalate, but no, by the way, Trump for quite a while now, for at least last several days, threatening Russia with new ultimatum and new 2-week deadline, right? And today we learn that US approved sale of cruise missiles to Ukraine. This was originally reported by Wall Street Journal, according to RT. And the details are that US has approved their sale of 3,350 air-launched Ethereum cruise missiles to Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday, citing 2 unnamed US officials. Munition, which have a range of up to 280 miles, 450 kilometers, by the way, approximately, will reportedly arrive in Ukraine within 6 weeks. Several US officials told the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine would have to seek the Pentagon's approval when using them. Well, they have all the approvals they want, by the way. Of course, and well, it seems like, by the way, we've been lured into yet another trap. I mean Russia. Russian leadership, first of all, because, well, you cannot trust, by the way, anybody from the US elites. You cannot trust anybody from the Western political elites in general, and that's it, man. There is not really much to discuss there. You cannot ever trust them, right? Period. Because while Russian president, a Russian foreign minister was sending these signals that, well, we are very much endorsing potential positive steps from US towards the de-escalation, and we expect full-scale restoration of the relations and that kind of stuff. Well, that's what US does. Approves transfer of long-range cruise missiles, by the way, for 450 kilometers is a quite long range, right? It may not be like Tomahawks, but you never know. Maybe tomorrow we're going to learn that US is actually approving Germany's request for launchers for the Tomahawk missiles that have a range of like 2,000 plus kilometers, right? So this is, of course, a major escalation from US against Russia, and any hopes, by the way, that Washington will de-escalate and Washington will, or U.S. current administration will pull out U.S. from this proxy war is dead now. It's not happening, by the way. This war will continue until Russia will eliminate enemies. That's it. Until Russia will eliminate all their enemies, this war will continue, right? And that's all I can say at this moment. If you are wondering what these missiles, these cruise missiles are about, then, well, ERAM is extended range attack munition, air to surface missile. Although, by the way, there is launchers also, ground, naval launchers that also can be transformed into ground launchers for these missiles. But a reporter from Wall Street Journal is focused on air launch modification, right? But you never know what US gonna supply their proxy regime to kill more Russians, right? They can supply all type of this munition. So ERAM, extended range attack munition, air-to-surface missile, is claimed to be a cheap and long-range weapon that was created by order of the United States specifically for Ukraine. So this weapon system is built specifically for these Ukrainian terrorists. The order was received in January 2024. It is known that the ERAM should be created on the basis of the 227 kilogram Mk-82 bombs, have a flight range of about 450 kilometers and a speed of about 700 kilometers per hour. It's a subsonic cruise missile. Another condition of the contract was that it has to be a simple design, so that it would be possible to produce at least 1,000 of these missiles in 2 years. So order was adopted in 2024, January 2024. It's end of August 2025. So one may assume hundreds of these missiles already been produced, and because information is being shared with the media by Pentagon, CIA, White House to be published, then we can assume that hundreds of those missiles potentially already are on Kiev controlled territory, or in Romania, by the way, and Poland, from where, according to some speculations, NATO planes are taking off to strike Russian troops and Russian territories. Right? Russian officials never made such a claim, but there are speculations on the internet that these F-16s, Mirage 2000s, and other planes that formerly Kiev regime has are actually located. It's a NATO planes piloted by NATO pilots, and they are based in Romania, potentially in Poland. They are taking off from there, then using some of the Kiev regime, some of the airfields on Kiev controlled territory as a jump airfields to land there, refuel, and then continue, right? They are launching missiles and they're going back to their permanent base, yet again, either in Romania or in Poland. That's the speculations, by the way. Yet again, Russian officials never made such a claim, right? But I think these speculations also have a legit right to exist, because it's a logical speculation, right? Because on Kiev-controlled territory, it's going to be extremely difficult for enemies of Russia to hide these planes, right? Yes, Kiev-controlled territory is still vast, by the way, but nevertheless, you cannot. There are satellite tracking systems and many other things, right, that can actually make it easily available, information easily available for Russian side. where these planes are stationed and from where they are taking off. You can imagine heater signature of these planes, by the way, especially when they are taking off, right? Engines are working on full capacity at that time, right? So it's going to be easily available to track this their trace. So therefore, it does make sense from military standpoint if NATO, which is in war with Russia, of course, if NATO will use Romanian air bases, Polish air bases for these strikes, they will launch from there. Maybe they will do some refueling on Kiev controlled territory on one of the airfields or on one of the magistrals, by the way. Those planes, F-16s and Mirage 2000s, are well capable to land and take off from ordinary magistrals, by the way, autobahns, right? And also from airfields, obviously. So they can refuel there, move towards Russia, launch the missiles, and then go back, right, with the same or other route. So this is serious. This is very serious, right? And well, I did not see any reaction from Russian officials yet on this report. Probably Peskov will be asked, press spokesman of the Russian president will be asked about it, and I guess he will downgrade this information. He will probably say some major phrases that, well, Russian air defense systems will deal with their additional threats and stuff like that. Of course, Russian air defense systems will do their best to intercept as many aerial targets as they possibly can, and that's what they do on daily basis, right? But this information is definitely indicator, at least to me personally, that U.S. Any hopes that we might have, by the way, that maybe Trump or his administration, America First forces, are serious about the escalating with Russia. I mean, these hopes are dead now, man. To me personally, they are all about war. They are all about killing Russian citizens, and they will continue to do it. And I hope Russian leadership really understands this, because it seems like they're being lured again into a trap, by the way. U.S. is using diplomacy as a deception, right? Trump himself personally was engaged in deception operation while they were formally negotiating with Iran just recently, by the way, about nuclear program. At the same time, very same Trump was planning together with the Israeli side attacks on Iran, right? So Trump already demonstrated that he just cannot be trusted, period, right? And Witkoff also, by the way, Witkoff, special envoy of Trump, was also engaged in those deception operations against Iran, and they are doing the same with Russia. I have no doubts on that. They are doing very same with Russia. They are luring Russian leadership into a trap. They are using diplomacy to mislead Russian leadership, and that's it, really. I don't know what to even say about it, man. Right, this is definitely next level of escalation. And I'm afraid once this latest Trump's ultimatum will expire in a week time now, probably we will see massive launches or launches of these U.S. missiles in a massive scale against Russia. It's going to be combined launches, of course. They will use everything they have. To kill as many Russians as they possibly can, and to strike as deep into Russian territory as they possibly can. So therefore, it is what it is. Share your opinion, dear friends, what you think. I guess America First people in US will be very much disappointed with this news, because I think they were also hoping that US will get out of this war, but it's just not happening, man. It's just not happening, unfortunately, right? Meanwhile, there is also attempt on part of US leadership to create a smokescreen as a part of deception operation against Russia. And they are sharing this propaganda, this fake news that Pentagon has restricted Ukraine from striking Russian territory, according to Wall Street Journal again. It's a fake news, by the way. Of course, this is a propaganda piece, a smoke screen, part of deception operation that Washington is engaged in, and Western so-called media, because of course this is lied. By the way, this is lied. Pentagon or Western so-called or U.S. so-called elites never actually stop being engaged in business of killing Russians, right? And they killed hundreds, thousands of Russians already. And until they are capable of killing Russians with impunity, as they do for now, they will continue to kill as many Russians as they possibly can. That's what they do, by the way. And but again, as long as they do it with impunity, total impunity, by the way, why would they stop? You tell me, dear friends, why would they stop? And therefore, this is clearly deception, by the way. First of all, let's be clear on ATACMS missiles. Kiev regime don't really has much more ATACMS missiles. Almost even US don't really has much more ATACMS missiles. Almost everything already being used to strike deep into Russian territory. Almost all of it already have been used. So this news, in principle, makes no sense, right? Even as a part of deception operation. But they are hopeful, I guess, that well, in Moscow they will listen to this news and they will believe that, well, we're not gonna allow Kyiv regime to use this long-range cruise missiles for strikes on Russia and that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, some elements here in Russia probably will buy into this crap, right? While in reality, as I said, man, as long as the US, UK, France, Germany is killing Russian citizens with impunity, they would not stop. They will continue. They would love to kill us all, man, literally. They would love to kill us all 140 or 45 million of us. That's how it is, man, and well, if Russian president is happy maintaining this restraint, okay, what can I do about it? But longer this restraint policy continues, more Russian citizens die. There is direct connection there, right? Also, dear friends, of course, I already spoke about means of delivery of these long-range cruise missiles. It can be launched from ground with launchers that will be adapted for that purposes, but also aviation of NATO and formerly Kyiv regime will be used this for purposes and in this regard, I guess it's worth reporting about this information that I shared yesterday, that yet another MiG-29 of formerly Kyiv regime, in reality NATO, was intercepted or crushed. That's what Kyiv regime is saying always, by the way. Whenever they are losing plane, it's crushed somewhere, right? And the Ukrainian terrorist that was piloting this plane was killed as a result of this development. But yet again, we should expect more and more news about crashes of the formerly Kyiv regime's planes, in reality NATO planes, in upcoming weeks, because yet again, even if those planes that NATO will use to strike deep into Russia will take off from Romania, they have to get closer as much as possible to Russian border, right, to launch those missiles on their maximum range, to reach maximum range. And once they will get closer, even if they will take off from Romania or Poland, once they will get like 100 miles closer to Russian border, 50 miles, 100 miles close to Russian border, air defense systems and the Russian fighter jets will be able to spot them. In majority of cases, no matter how low these NATO pilots will try to fly to reach Russian border, chances that they will always manage to avoid the detection is next to zero, I guess. And so we should expect more and more these so-called crashes of formerly Kyiv regime's planes, in reality NATO planes, in upcoming weeks. And by the way, even though I don't believe Russian president will change its policy, And therefore, I don't believe that Moscow will stop exercising this constant restraint. Theoretically, anything is possible, isn't it? And maybe once Russia will face large scale or combined drone and missile strikes all over the European part of Russia, maybe even deeper than that. Who knows? Maybe Russian president will change its attitude and will authorize retaliatory strikes, not just on Kiev-controlled territory, but retaliatory strikes on military assets of Russian enemies. That is U.S., UK, France, Germany, and others. Because, as I said, as long as the Western ruling class, as long as the political elites of US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Poland, and the rest are able to kill Russians with impunity, they will continue to do so. Why would they stop? You tell me, dear friends. Why would they stop? They hate us. They want to kill us all, and they will continue to do it unless they've been forced to stop. So therefore, I don't know. Maybe there is a slight chance, at least on theoretical level, that Russian president will change its policies, because otherwise more and more Russians going to die. Simple as that. More and more Russians going to die because West will not stop. I don't know what it's going to take for Russian president to realize that he cannot have decent negotiations with Western representatives. Why he's being this naive, man? I cannot wrap my head around his current policies of this constant restraint, man. How many Russian citizens have to die for him to realize that it is time to retaliate, man? I don't know, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So yes, we should expect more strikes from NATO with NATO weapons, and yes, none of us are safe here in Russia, as long as Western so-called elites are capable of killing us with their impunity. That's it. Russian president is safe, I guess, but rest of us, ordinary people, we don't. None of us are safe, and I guess for some of the elements in Russian leadership, our lives don't really count. Maybe because they are still very keen to continue, exercise restraint. And meanwhile, NATO is killing more and more our people, civilians and militaries. They are striking deeper and deeper into Russian territory. And take a look at the map where Leningrad region is and where Kiev-controlled territory is. These attacks definitely are, in my personal opinion, yet again, these attacks on Leningrad region and potentially many others are coming from not Kiev-controlled territory, but from NATO directly. But yet again, as long as Russian leadership is happy to continue this restraint policy, then why would our enemies stop that love to kill all of us? Really unfortunate developments there, by the way. Very unfortunate developments. Let's see if Trump will be asked about these deliveries and what he will say about it. But Russian side probably either would not comment on it. I'm not even sure that Russian officials will comment in any way on this unprecedented level of escalation from US, right? But if there will be comments, then probably very mild one that, it's no big deal. Russian defense systems will deal with it. Yes, they will. But unfortunately, time to time, some of the missiles and drones will manage to bypass air defense systems, and people are going to die. So it is a big deal, right? RT is reporting that, Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, that sold her soul, really, for Israeli money, is claiming now that deep state are entrenched in U.S. intel community. What about Israeli secret services, Tulsi Gabbard? Is Israeli secret services infiltrated U.S. political class, U.S. intelligence and military also? Or is just this some deep state that Barely anybody understands what even is, right? But this is the way, by the way, we as political class loves to play. You know, whenever they are in some sort of negotiations engaged, they will say, you know what, we are for peace, but I mean, we have a deep state that against it, right? So clean it up, for God's sake, if you are serious about it. Just clean it. If there is criminal activity, then cut those criminals, exterminate those criminals. What this statement of Gabbard even means, I mean, you tell me, dear friends. So US intelligence communities has been infiltrated by deep state actors who are busy inserting their own partisan political opinions and views into Intel products and effectively working against the American people. US Director of the National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has stated, and yet again, question is why you're still on your position if you are doing nothing about it. Okay, you made statement, you informed public that your intelligence services have been infiltrated by these deep state actors. What you are doing about it? Just the statements, really? And is that enough? And how long this kind of statements gonna be made, day in, day out, or months in, months out, on year terms? How many times? And does these statements even mean anything nowadays? I mean, statements from US officials. And yet again, what about Israel? Is Israeli secret services infiltrated US secret services, US political class, or not? I guess we're never gonna have an answer on that from officials, but we all know what is going on, isn't it? Who runs the show in US? Definitely not US people, US citizens, by the way. They've been ignored completely for how many decades now, man? RT is also reporting that, emboldened the terrorist regime of Zelensky, emboldened by all sorts of support from Washington, European capitals, by neocons, globalists, and so on, is threatening Belarus now and issuing warnings. Okay. So Ukraine has told Minsk to stay away from its borders during the upcoming joint military exercises with Russia to be held in Belarus. The warning came ahead of a Zapad 2025 military drill scheduled for September 12 to 16. And let's see if Minsk will react on it. I mean, how many insults Belarusian people gonna take from Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists? I wonder. How long they gonna allow Kiev to bully Minsk? I don't know. But let's see if Minsk will say, or what you gonna do about it. Let's see if Lukashenko will, or anybody else from Belarusian leadership will react on these threats and will say, I mean, what you gonna do if we don't stay away from a border? And G7 foreign ministers to hold Ukraine talks today, that is on Sunday. The foreign ministers of G7 countries will hold the talks on Sunday on the prospects of establishing peace in Ukraine, the Italian foreign ministry said in a statement. On the occasion of Ukraine's Independence Day, PIX Day has an Independence Day. Wow. The head of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Antonio Tajani, once again declared Kiev's full support for achieving peace in close coordination with the United States and European partners. Okay. Are they going to get together and discuss how they're going to increase effectiveness of their war against Russia and how they're going to kill more Russians? That's the topic that they always discuss, today, tomorrow, day after. Not really a big surprise there. The Novosti is also reporting that also under Berlin decided to finance purchase of 2 more Patriot air defense systems for Ukraine. Well, citizens of Germany and Norway should be happy. Couple of billion of their money going to be transferred to U.S. military-industrial complex. Okay, in interests of not just U.S. military-industrial complex, but also Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists. Okay. What can I say about it? RT is also reporting that Turkey might send troops to Ukraine. Turkish envoy in Kiev stated about it. And these Turkish troops might be part of a possible security guarantees. Also, Turkey is ready to help clear mines from the Black Sea. And should we be surprised, by the way? Turkey is a historical enemy of Russia and should be treated by Russia as such, as a historical enemy. But Moscow has different approach. I disagree with Russia's policies in regards to Turkey, in regards to many other enemy states, right? But yet again, I'm not being asked about it. And Turkey, by the way, will use any opportunity to harm Russians and Russia as much as they possibly can. It's it's a historical enemy of Russia, by the way. They hate us. They literally hate us all. And they hate everything Russian. That's simple true, by the way, right? And unfortunately, some Russian citizens that have no patriotic feelings, have no love to their people, their country, and are potentially traitors, latent traitors at least. Many of them are traveling to Turkey, by the way, every summer, every now and then, to spend their money and enhance Turkish economy, enemy's economy, right? If it was up to me, I will say, anybody goes to enemy country will lose Russian citizenship automatically, and that's it, man, right? Turkey is a Russian enemy and should be treated as such. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan and Armenia nominates Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this freak show, man. We are living in dark times for humanity, isn't it? This is a freak show, man, that we are witnessing on geopolitical scale. Trump, who is all about killing people, right? Trump's administration that is all about killing people, and they're gonna start new killing spree, by the way, in South America now. Look at the Venezuela, right? And many other countries, by the way. Any country in Latin America that gain any sort of independence from Washington gonna be targeted. And who knows how many million people gonna be affected by this, right? And Azerbaijan and Armenia are nominating Trump for peace, Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, who gives a damn about Nobel Peace Prize anyways, by the way, among people that actually have any understanding or any knowledge about it. But after Obama was awarded with Nobel Peace Prize for literally nothing, right? Just because after that, I don't know why would anybody care about this Nobel Peace Prize, man. It means literally nothing, right? RT is also reporting that Dutch foreign minister quits over Israel. Dutch foreign minister Caspar Welkmar has stepped down in a protest over the coalition government's refusal to impose sanctions on Israel for its actions in Gaza. And surprisingly, by the way, surprisingly to me and maybe to many of you, there are some people somehow in political class of the West that have at least a little bit of humanity left, right? Little bit, by the way. This decision don't make this criminal a decent human being, because this criminal is guilty of death of many Russian civilians, right? Netherlands are actively supporting this Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists. So does this disgrace of humanity, Kaspar Veldkmar, but seems like he has some psychological issues. Psychological issues. I mean, killing Russians is very popular in the West, right? They all hate Russians. They all hate everything Russian. So if you kill Russians, it's no big deal for them. But it seems like this scum of humanity was not that comfortable with actions of Israel and death of hundreds of thousands of innocent Palestinians. So there is a little bit of humanity in this dirty animal, right, left, and that little bit of humanity, I guess, won in that particular case. But don't be mistaken. This is maximum they are capable of, just a little bit of humanity, but they are not good human beings, man. Anybody that is a part of Western political class, Western so-called elites, is a dirty, rabid animal and should be put down. That's it, my personal opinion. And also, when it comes to Israel, by the way, now U.S. militaries are losing people due to actions of the Israel because allegedly, if you are in U.S. Army, then you have to be loyal to Israel on a much greater scale than you are loyal to US, it seems like, because US Army sergeant, by the way, shared the video, and I published that video on my Telegram and Twitter X page. So he shared the video according to which he was basically lectured by his superior officers for his post in social media in which he condemned the genocide of the Palestinian people. Genocide that Israel is committing, this fascist entity that modern Israel is. And he might not just potentially, by the way, this person, the sergeant of the US Army, may not just lose his position in army, but he might get jailed, by the way. And in this video, he's asking questions. I mean, when I joined armed forces, my oath was to US people, right, to United States, and not for Israel. And he's asking legit question: what the hell is going on, right? Why he's being punished for having a decent take, only possible take, by the way, humanly possible take on crimes that Israel is committing. So US is losing, by the way, its military personnel to Israeli actions, right? And can you imagine how heartbreak this person gonna be, and many others, by the way, that join armed forces to serve their country, their people, and now they are realizing that, you know what, no, Israel is actually matters much more, and don't dare you ever say anything that goes against their Israeli actions. You're gonna be treated as a traitor in that case. So you tell me, dear friends, is there oath to US means now automatically oath to Israel? I don't know. It's insane, man. It's insane, but we are living in insane times, isn't it? Also, dear friends, there was some unfortunate accident on the border between South and North Korea. South Korean troops fired their warning shots at the DPRK troops. Seoul confirms it fired there after soldiers briefly after DPRK briefly crossed the demarcation line, according to Seoul. North Korean officials say premeditated and deliberate provocation took place on the demarcation line, and Pyongyang not gonna tolerate this kind of behavior. If South Korean troops fired shots, be sure something gonna happen in upcoming days, man. It will not take long before North Korea will retaliate one way or another, but they will let Seoul know that they should keep quiet and don't mess around, or they will find out. And by the way, they will. I mean, North Korea can obliterate Seoul. Literally, just they can. All will remain from Seoul is a radioactive crater, and that's it, right? So it will be better for South Korean politicians and South Korean militaries to know their place, right, and don't mess around until they are alive. RT is, and by the way, you guess which country will love to provoke war there on Peninsula? And it's US, right? It's US and South Korea should think and think quite a lot. Do they really want to die for sickening geopolitical goals of the US political class, or do they want to live? It's a simple but very legitimate and very relevant question. Do they really want to die for a US political class and their geopolitical interests, or do they want to live? And every South Korean should ask this question and find their answer in their heads and souls, right? And same should be done by Japanese people, and same should be done by Taiwanese people, by the way, and everyone else that is being manipulated by the US, right? RT is reporting that German economy in a structural crisis, according to Merz. So German economy is experiencing a structural crisis rather than just a temporary weakness. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has stated, admitting that steering the country's economy back on a track has proven harder than he had anticipated. And okay, man, that's what Germany deserved, man. German people deserve this kind of leaders, and they have it, right? All people deserve leadership they have. That's how say goes, isn't it? And I think it's correct. When German people will deserve better, they will have better leadership. But right now, they have a chancellor that openly says, by the way, that, well, he only now find out the German economy is in a serious crisis. I mean, really? And why so? It was not his party. It was not her political class, ruling political class in Germany that destroyed relationships with Russia, economical, political, and so on. And by doing so, destroyed the foundations of the success of German economy. It's them, isn't it? It's them, Merz, Bertz, and the rest of the garbage, by the way, that did it. And now this psychopath is publicly saying that, well, he's surprised. I mean, our economy is in trouble, but I didn't anticipate this to be the case. I mean, come on, man. What kind of people are formally, at least, in charge of these European countries? I don't know. Although, well, German people might experience some difficulties in economy, right? German government might have no money for their own citizens, but they have money for Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, by the way, and therefore they're going to allocate, as I already reported, another couple of billions of euros, right, to purchase two more Patriot air defense systems for Ukrainian Nazis. And by the way, each Patriot battery costs about billion, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that, and this is on top of another 5 that Germany promised, right? Also, if you think it's only Germany that is not really experiencing best times, German economy, no. It's all of Europe, by the way. All of Europe, especially leading economies of Europe, are really entering the dark times, right? And for example, we have this report that United Kingdom might have to apply to IMF for a loan due to economic problems, right? And when IMF is taking over your country, I mean, your country is screwed. So that's how bad the situation in UK is, that a Cambridge University professor, economist, by the way, Jahid Kadhar, is saying that government of United Kingdom may apply for a loan to the International Monetary Fund due to economic problems. And we have a quote from him, I'm in a world in which I could imagine it happening, and will be briefed in that case. The economist said, citing by their news outlet Daily Telegraph, we will not be able to roll over debt. We will not be able to meet our pensions, payments, benefits. will be hard to pay out. Economists stress that the economy of the United Kingdom is on the brink of collapse. Gallagher compared the current situation with the one occurred in 1976 when London eventually applied to IMF for a bailout and high energy prices and the industrialization in the country. So that's UK, by the way. That's UK. But instead of paying attention to domestic issues that public is facing in US, in UK, their so-called elites are focused on killing Russians. That's all they think about, right? They want to kill more Russians. They want this proxy war to continue as long as possible, as long as they can, right? And they always have money to invest in that, in killing Russians. But when it comes to UK economy, well, I don't think we need statements from Cambridge professor, by the way. Members of our community from UK shared many times information about quite a dire situation in the country from many standpoints, not just the economy, by the way, but also social fabric being stretched beyond limits. And now there is open talk even about risks of UK is descending into a civil war. So the situation is really not great there, right, in Great Britain. Also, by the way, we have this report from TASS News Agency that India wants to supply more electronics cars to Russia, according to ambassador. So India is going to expand supplies of electronics cars and building materials to Russia. Ambassador of India to Russia Federation, Vinay Kumar, told the TASS News Agency in an interview. We have quote here some of the important areas that we think we need to focus on and improve our export, our textiles and fashion products, construction materials, auto and automobile spare parts and components, also electronics, and their entire set of electronics and IT-related products, also phones. Many of their top manufacturers are also manufacturing in India. We look forward to increase in those areas also. And well, by the way, I believe Russian ambassador in India just about a week ago stated during the press conference that Moscow is very much open India to increase its exports to Russian Federation, and it well might be, by the way, that goods that were destined to US will be shipped to Russia. And if prices are competitive, then I think Indian companies might actually have good chances for success on the Russian market. So therefore, great. Let's cooperate. Let's increase our trade. Trade between Russia and India is about 100 billion, by the way, which is no good. We should double, triple this volume of trade. And I think this is possible. This is possible, by the way. This is possible. So, as both countries, Moscow and Russia and India, are BRICS member states, key states when it comes to emerging multipolar world, and because India is experiencing tremendous pressure from US right now, of course, Moscow will do whatever it can to support India. And by doing so, of course, Moscow will open Russian market too for Indian companies. And Russian market is open anyways, by the way. I don't think Russia will impose any tariffs or sanctions on Indian goods, man. No. Key point is competitiveness, because Indian companies in many cases gonna compete with Chinese companies, right? And they should keep that in mind. And Chinese businesses, by the way, they love this current situation. They loved when Western companies, very many Western companies, flee the Russian market, because they had a unique opportunity to establish themselves in a big way, right? And they did. Many of them did, by the way, and flooded the market, right? And if sometime in the future relationships between Russia and the Western countries will normalize, which is barely possible, from current standpoint, but sometime in the future, God knows what might happen. So if relationships will begin normalizing and Western companies will be allowed to come back to Russian market, those companies going to find out that spot is busy, spot is taken. And I don't think Western companies can actually compete with Chinese businesses, man. They just cannot, right? In many, many spheres, right? And if India will join China, if Indian companies will establish themselves big time, then Western companies will have not even theoretical chance to compete with these two giants, right? China and India, man. So I think for a good Western companies forever lost Russian market, many of them, which is great, by the way. I'm against letting them back anyways, right? They betrayed Russian customers and should never ever be allowed to come back to Russian market. Period. That's how it is, man. You should know. I'm in absolute support of a principle that don't forgive and don't forget. Never forgive, never forget. That's my principle, by the way. It might not be very Christian take. In Christianity, we've been told to, forgive and to be like better human beings and all that kind. We all know, isn't it? But you know what? Let me deal with my principles, with the aftermath of my principles after life. I will answer to my takes, right? And if I have to go to hell, then fuck it, let's be it. But I don't forgive, I don't forget, man. That's how it is. And that should Russia should operate too. Never forgive, man. Why should we forgive? Isn't it? Yet again, not very Christian take. I agree with that. But when your enemies are pure evil, right? And Western ruling class is an evil force, by the way. I mean, no debates on that, isn't it? Then you know what? Only kind approach is definitely not working. Evil have to be eliminated, and you cannot do it with kindness, man. You just cannot. It is what it is. TASS news agency is reporting, and I will end news segment on that hundreds of trucks with the fruits for Russia returned to Armenia, which is interesting. So hundreds of Armenian trucks with their agricultural products heading to Russia through its border with Georgia are returning to Armenia due to phytosanitary problems. Armenian MP Garnik Danilian reported. Interesting. Hundreds of trucks, by the way, so this is a big deal. Deputy MP stated that their vehicles carrying other cargo, in particular construction materials, are also subject to thorough inspection on the border checkpoints. And by the way, I mean, Armenian government chose to be hostile towards Russia, right? They love to be slaves of US and Europe, and you know what? You want to be slaves of them, then be. I mean, it's your life. But you know what? Don't expect from Russia to give you some favors no more, right? When you were ally, or at least when you were acting as an ally, okay, Moscow was quite friendly and still continues to be quite friendly. But now you are openly ally of Russian enemies. Right, Armenia? And so why should you expect same treatment that you get while you were positioning yourself at least to be neutral? So yes, I expect, by the way, I said it many times before, isn't it, that Armenia is a colony of West now, right? Armenian people supported Pashinyan, not just once, but on several occasions. So it's a people's decision. It was not a coup d'etat or not something like that Pashinyan and his people gained the power. Armenian people went to vote for these beaches of their West, right? Western ruling class. And they should bear consequences now. It is what it is, man. They knew perfectly well that Pashinyan will transform Armenia into a colony of the West. And by doing so, Armenia will become hostile to Russia. automatically, because that's the only way West will tolerate Armenian political class that is in charge there. And so it is what it is, by the way. You chose to be hostile. You voted for that. You wanted it. Take the consequences, man. Russia don't really need Armenia for anything. I mean, literally anything, man. And if you ask me, I want Russian military base to be withdrawn from Armenia. Let Armenia, let's leave it, man. Let's leave it. Let them do whatever they want, become slaves of US, slaves of Europe, or whatever they want, man. Slaves of Turkey. I mean, they loved it. They love it, maybe. I mean, it's none of our business, right? Let them do whatever they want. We should stay out of there. That's my take, man. Yet again, don't forgive, don't forget. My principle, man. Armenia chose to be ally of Russian enemies. Okay, let's not forget about it. And let's not forgive. Of course, thorough control over Armenian goods are necessary, because who knows what enemies of Russia gonna do with through Armenia. What kind of provocations they might try through Armenia. They might put freaking bombs, explosives in those trucks, and all sorts of things, right? So yes, that's the consequences, by the way. Consequences. I don't feel sorry, by the way, for Armenia, not even slightest. It's their choice. They wanted it, right? So let them enjoy now being slaves of the West. What can I do about it? And dear friends, this is it for a new segment. For a new segment, I will join the chat now in a minute. But first, dear friends, let me highlight this. This screenshot. This morning, Barney donated 1,500 rubles, $20, by the way, to this project. Thank you very much, Barney, for your support. And comment from Barney is, hi Levan, have a good week. Thanks for your work. Need to carry on. It will sort itself out. Thank you very much, Barney, for your support, for your kind words. I appreciate your support. Thank you. And also, dear friends, just now, I believe there was a super chat. Also, yesterday evening, there was a from Patrick, right? Yesterday evening, dear friends, there was a donation from Patrick, a member of our community, through PayPal, $50 donation. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your support. And right now, dear friends, let me share also this. There was a donation during the stream on a Boosty, and also a super chat. So let me share these two. This is a fundraising stream, isn't it? So everything counts. Everything counts. Of course. And let me highlight her. So this is the one donation on a Boosty from Alexander Grimsmo. I think we have to only show name also on Boosty. So from now on, dear friends, on Boosty, I will only highlight a nickname if there is nickname. Yes, Miles should be closed, but like we do with the PayPal. That way. So Alexander is commenting. Thank you very much, Alexander, for 768 ruble donation, for $10 donation to truly grateful for your support. And comment from Alexander is totally agree with Levan on diplomacy with Trump. He's not being trusted. I think Putin is playing the long game, trying to establish diplomatic channels between Russia and US for even after Trump. Thank you for your comment, Alexander. Obviously, there is some plan that Putin follows, right? Should be and must be. And for us, for ordinary people, of course, that only know information that is available through open sources, time to time could be very difficult to understand certain policies, either of Putin or any other leader, right? Because they know more. They just simply know more, right? And so maybe this is exactly the case, as you say. Maybe this is some long game plan that Putin is adapting, not just for nowadays, but also for a foreseeable future. Could be case, but I think as long as the Western so-called elites are unchallenged, and as long as they are killing Russians, by the way, with impunity, I don't think diplomacy will work. They have to feel heat, Western so-called elites. Only in that case they will really begin de-escalating. But as long as they are killing us with impunity, man, they would not stop, because they truly hate us. They don't consider us to be even humans, man. So what we are talking about, right? So I obviously don't know what Putin's game plan is, but I'm afraid longer he continues this restraint with this policy of restraint, more Russian citizens gonna die. You know, that's how I see the things. You know, let's see. Maybe he is close now to the point when he will prefer to take some action, right? Yet again, we don't know all the information that he has. I mean, president of Russia, right? So therefore, you know, but US is clearly escalating, isn't it? I mean, delivery of 3,000 plus cruise missiles with range of 450 kilometers. That's, by the way, level of escalation that even Biden avoided, right? Even Biden did not go that far. And he was and he and his administration was fully into this war, you know, into this business of killing Russians. And you know, Trump seems like, you know, I don't know. Let's see, man. Let's see. But something very bad is going to happen, man. Something very bad is going to happen. We are entering in very dangerous times, I think, because if US is full in again, God help us all, man. Because at one point, Moscow will have to start reacting. A big way with retaliatory strikes. That is. Thank you very much, Alexander, once again for your comment, for your donation. Alexander commented that it's fine to say their surname too, but nevertheless, you know, I want to make sure that next time, if it's a nickname, it's okay. I mean, it's nickname. If I have permission to say their surname too, okay, but otherwise only first name. And there was also the friend's super chat. Let me highlight super chat. The modus Qatar is commenting. Thank you. Thanks for your honest reporting. Thank you very much for your super chat, for $5 donation, and for being very helpful. You always share with me through different platforms some additional information that I might missed out or did not notice, and it does help. So thank you very much for being supportive. I appreciate that. Thank you, and many thanks for your kind words. I mean, being honest, that's all I can really. You know, thank you. And there was on PayPal, dear friends, donation, $30 donation from Dominic. Thank you very much, Dominic, for your $30 donation. And comment from Dominic is, thank you, Levan, for true journalism with uh, perspective from Russia. Uh, Thank you, Dominic, for your donation and their kind words in a comment. I try my best, dear friends. All I can do is to share relevant information that media pays attention to, public is discussing, and be honest in my comments, in my understanding of the situation, and that's what I do. Really, sometimes some members of our community may don't like that I might be too honest, but I'm not an actor. I cannot act. So even if I say nothing about certain development, you will read it on my face that I'm upset about this news or that news, even if I just say literally nothing. So I'm not an actor. I'm gonna be honest, by the way, always. That can I do, and it's easy. That's how I live, by the way, my life. So and that's why I had so many problems. This is also true, by the way. I mean, you think why? Uh, it's 15 year now, isn't it? More 15, 16 years. So you think why me and my family were forced to flee regime controlled territory in Georgia in 2009? It was Saakashvili then, by the way, as president. Because of my honesty, because of my honesty. And I was leading the news agency at the time in Georgia when Saakashvili, under orders from Washington, initiated the war, civil war, reignited basically, and then provoked war with Russia while attacking Russian peacekeepers in a region of South Ossetia. And well, I told to my journalists, write the truth. We were only media outlet, by the way, at the time in whole country that did not obey uh, regime's propaganda, regime's dictate. We continue to do our journalistic job, and obviously, regime didn't like that. We were only media where you could find any truth whatsoever about what was going on, right? And thousands and thousands and thousands of people were receiving information from us, right? But regime didn't like it, and well, eventually we had to flee, and now we are here. So it does not comes free, by the way. Honesty, right? It comes with the consequences always, and this is true of life everywhere, isn't it? In any field, by the way. I mean, honest people barely liked because they might say true that can be painful, but nevertheless, it's a true, isn't it? And you know, this is life, isn't it? I'm scrolling, dear friends, sir. I'm scrolling now. Oh, Nikos is back. I can see. Uh, Nikos is commenting. I am back. I could not leave the channel. That changed my mind about this situation. Just don't put words in my mouth, the one. I don't support the Greek government. I support you. Oh, thank you very much, Nikos, sir. Probably there was a misunderstanding. I was criticizing Greek government. I never said that you are supporter of the Greek government, right? I remember that episode that you are referring to. Uh, I was sharing my frustration in regards to certain decisions that the Greek government was engaged in. But uh, good to see you back, Nikos. You are one of the most active members of our community, and it's always good to see your questions on the comments. And not just you are one of the most active members, not just of here in our community, but in general in alternative media, by the way. So, and I guess one of the most famous commentators, uh, even. So, glad you're back. Um, it's great. It's good. And yet again, misunderstandings, sir, might happen. You know, but nevertheless, uh, good to see you back. I will take my time, dear friends. This is a big community chat, is not it? The big community chat, Sunday traditional community chat and fundraising. I will take time now to scroll through chat and to react as many questions or the comments that I can. Bhagavad Gita commenting international law is dead, and well, unfortunately, I have to agree with you absolutely. I mean, international law, this terminology is used left and right by many, isn't it? But in reality, international law is just basically non-existent. Sides, different influential groups or forces or sides are using this topic of international law only when it is profitable for them, one way or another, and that's it, right? In every other case, they just don't recognize the existence of anything on like international law stuff. And UN is dead, by the way. Well, what this statement of yours basically means, and I agree with you absolutely, is that, well, UN is dead, right? UN bodies, so-called international organizations, they've been run not by UN member states, but by secret services of a number of countries, right? US, UK, Israel primarily. UN itself barely capable of agreeing on anything or to achieving anything. It's a dead organization, unfortunately. I mean, it was created with high hopes, right? And there was instances in past when UN did play some positive role in life of this world, but right now, this organization is dead, and so international law is dead too, 100%, which is unfortunate, but you know. Michael Kennedy is commenting that Patrick Lancaster reports real stuff from Russia. Also true. Michael, if some members of our community are not familiar with the channel of Patrick Lancaster, under this video on YouTube, by the way, under every video on YouTube, basically, I have in the description box, I have recommendation list of the channels that I follow. I follow like maybe 100 times more channels, obviously, but I did pick at least dozen, a little more than that. And among those channels, there is a Patrick Lancaster's channel too. So if new members of community get confused who Patrick Lancaster is, he does great work, by the way, great journalistic work. He is very often on a line of contact. He reports from Donbass. He does great journalism. So I definitely recommend his channel. And I agree with Michael, absolutely. He does great work. Alexander G is commenting, Iran has been terribly naive with their foreigners. They are trying to kick out the Mossad operatives now through. Well, many countries made this very mistake, isn't it? Many countries. Iran suffered tremendously, obviously, just a few months ago. For being naive, and in many ways, let's remember Iranian leadership was engaged in a diplomacy, right, with the US. I guess they truly believe that US leadership can be trusted. There was 5 rounds of talks. There was a 6th round planned, and in between 5th and 6th rounds, US, Israel, they began their attacks on Iran. And Israeli media outlets, by the way, openly said that Trump and Witkoff were engaged in a deception operation together with Israelis to cut Iran off guard of these attacks. And so, yes, Iran was naive, Iranian leadership, and I'm afraid many other countries worldwide, leadership of many other countries are also naive. It is very unfortunate to say, but I mean, I don't know personally. I mean, I just don't know how you can trust any representative of the Western elites. They use diplomacy for deception, right? You know they're gonna lie to you. They will use diplomacy to lure you into a trap, right? So when this is the case, when you have example after example of that, I don't even know how you're gonna negotiate with those people on anything. I mean, how if there is a complete absence of trust, then what is the point in talk itself? I mean, I don't know. I guess Russian leadership has the very same dilemma before them. I mean, and they are dealing with it regularly whenever they are engaged in the talks with the representatives of the Western elites, right? Because they cannot be sure that whatever is being said by opponent side is true. They just cannot be sure in that, right? Most likely they are lying. You know, just take a look at the recent developments in regards to Moscow-Washington relationships. By the way, there was an Alaska summit. Russian leadership was expressing hope, and at least partially optimistic statements were shared that the relationships might actually improve. And I myself was cautiously optimistic. I would love to see through the escalation between Washington and Moscow. By the way, I mean, I want the escalation to happen, right? But then today's news happened that U.S. is transferring 3,000 plus cruise missiles to kill more Russians. Man. What the hell? What the hell, man? Question from Gracie Knoll. Are there cruise missiles? There are Tomahawk missiles? No, Gracie. Tomahawk missiles are much longer range missiles, about 2,000 kilometers, if not more. These missiles, these cruise missiles that U.S. authorized to transfer to Kiev regime, they've been built especially for Kiev regime. It's basically what it is that kit was made for 200 kilogram bombs, right? Kit with a rocket engine and wings and that kind of stuff, and the range of this equipped aerial bomb basically equipped with this kit is about 450 kilometers. So it's a formidable weapon system, by the way. I mean, 200 kilogram bomb is a serious stuff, right? It may not be as devastating as FAB 500, for example, or FAB 1500, and these numbers mean weight, or FAB 3000, but nevertheless, 200 kilogram bomb is also a devastating weapon system, isn't it? And while being equipped with this cruise missile kit, those 200 kilogram bombs will fly 450 kilometers, and each bomb, each such a cruise missile can quite effectively demolish a high-rise apartment building, at least one wing of high-rise apartment building. So it is very serious stuff. Not as powerful, not as capable as a Tomahawk missile, but we cannot underestimate, of course, capabilities of this MRAA or whatever the name is, missiles. And the number of them, by the way, I mean, 3,000 plus, it's quite a lot, isn't it? And because production contract was signed on January 2024, you can imagine that by now, at least several hundred or maybe even thousand, potentially, God knows, but at least several hundred of these bombs or these cruise missiles have been developed and are even shipped to give controlled territories. So uh, we might see deployment of those weapons against Russia in about weeks' time, when this latest Trump's 2-week ultimatum will expire. Alexander G is commenting. I suspect when Tulsi talked her deep state, she really mean the Israelis. Maybe, but she cannot mention Israel in any negative context. She just cannot, right? And I was very disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, by the way. I had some sympathies towards Tulsi. I was thinking that maybe she is a true to statements, to principles, basically, right? Uh, but then, she did made some 180-degree turn, by the way, some U-turn, especially on topic of Israel, um, and she come across as a Muslim hater, by the way, not terrorist hater, which would be understandable. All terrorists should be condemned and neutralized all over the world, no matter from which background they are coming from, right? But Tulsi Gabbard unfortunately come across as a just Muslim hater in general. I mean, you listen to her statements, you will think, I mean, she is hating everybody, right? Entire Muslim world, and this is just too crazy, right? And yet again, she become a apologist, Israeli apologist. I mean, I cannot imagine how anybody with their heart, by the way, and soul can support what Israel does with Palestinians. I mean, it's horrendous, isn't it? And well, no, Tulsi did this U-turn, and after that, I was a bit upset because I was thinking, maybe a new generation of politicians in US will be, better ones, right? And will actually make some positive impact on the politics, and maybe one day, if this continues, US would not be enforcer in hands of neocons, Israel, globalists, but become a republic again. And if so, then of course that will benefit not just US citizens, but whole world, by the way, right? We could see improvement in the relationships between US and Russia, and the US and many other countries worldwide. It will benefit the whole of humanity if US will actually become a republic again. And I guess many US citizens had somewhat similar hopes, right? When watching emergence of this new wave of politicians from both side of aisle, by the way. But then disappointment uh, came, because yet again, all of them, I mean, not just Tulsi, but many others did make some U-turns, by the way, on some major topics, and that was just too bad, you know. Uh, so probably she meant Israel too, but she cannot say it. I don't know what kind of relationship she has there, either with the APAC or with any other influential groups in US that lobby the Israel. But clearly there is something going on there. I mean, I think. Dylan Thomas is asking, why does Vladimir Putin insist on trying to be friends with the US? I remember when they invited him to sign Blueberry Hill in front of all the American top brass and glitterati. I think, of course, I cannot know for sure what Putin's thinking is, right? Why he is and his team tries actively to somehow build relationships with the US. I mean, working relationships, and he does, by the way, right? This is my impression too. And my explanation would be that, objectively speaking, there is no reasons why should US and Russia be enemies or the hostiles. I mean, there is no historical reasons for that. If anything, Russia supported US during the revolution and also during the civil war in US, right? Yeah, Russia was supporting northern forces against secessionists, right? And Russia also supported the US people, US leadership during their struggle for independence. So if anything, historically speaking, we should be allies. We should not be enemies, right? Also, by the way, there is many areas in which cooperation of Russia and US is just absolutely important for survivability of the humanity. For example, nuclear weapons, right? Fight against extremists of all sorts should be their main task for both countries, and also cooperation is necessary because we are nuclear powers. Excuse me, and each of us, US and Russia, on its own can end a human civilization like many times over, right? That's how many nuclear weapons we have. And there is no indicators that humanity will survive nuclear winter. Not just nuclear exchange itself, but nuclear winter that comes next, right? And decimates literally everything. So there is objectively geopolitical reasons why should we why should not be at least hostile, and also there is a tremendous potential in economy, right? In economical terms, US needs to be part of, for example, Northern Sea Route, isn't it? Because world is going down in current trajectory of the world is towards further escalation, right? Towards further destabilization, and including in areas through which main maritime trade routes are operating right now. And we see examples in the Middle East, for example, right? Red Sea used to be main part of main trade route, right? And it was disrupted big time by Houthi rebels. And nothing US can do about it, literally. I mean, they tried, but they failed, right? To force Houthi rebels to stop attacking vessels that they think are connected with Israel. And these actions of Houthi rebels are in response to Israeli aggression against Palestine. So as long as Israel continues genociding Palestinian people, Houthi rebels going to continue to operate against any vessel in Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and so on, that, by their opinion, are connected, linked to Israel. So you see how fragile these maritime routes are, isn't it? It's not just the Red Sea, but it's Suez Channel, by the way, and passage through Suez Channel dropped. I mean, I don't have numbers in front of me, but at least 50%. At least 50%, which is a huge number, isn't it? Huge number. So I think there is Northern Sea Route potential. Northern Sea Route is destined to become a major trade route for this world, 100%. Just give it 10, 20 years. And US wants to be part of it. And I guess some forces in US do understand this. And that's why Washington was talking about Canada and Greenland. Not for their resources, mainly as some thought, but for access to northern latitudes, right? Because Alaska only is not enough. You need access to northern territories of Canada and Greenland too, to be a big player, by the way, in Arctic. So there is that, isn't it? There is also objective interest of US to have a good relationship with Russia, to somehow balance influence of China, right? Because objectively speaking, only country at this point that is actually capable of challenging US in economical terms is China, and China is in a better position actually than US is, because take a look at the trade between the two. China's economy is an export-oriented economy. It has surplus almost with every country when it comes to trade, with a few exceptions, and Russia is this few exception. Russian economy is also export-oriented, and Russia has surplus almost, I mean, with everyone, practically with everyone, even with China, right? And this is one of the reasons why Russian economy did withstand all this pressure from the West, right? But nevertheless, to go back to topic, I think it is in best interest of US, right, to have a good relationship with Russia, which will help them to balance the situation with China, so that China would not become like next US, right, on geopolitical scale, next the main dominant force, right, unchallenged one. And Moscow could cooperate with Washington, not just on these matters that I said, but on many others too, right? Rare earth, energy, this and that. There is plenty of opportunities, really, but and it is in strategical national security interests of both, in my personal opinion, US and Russia, to be on good working terms at least, or ideally even on friendly terms. And that's why Putin tries, by the way. That's why Putin, his administration, is trying quite hard to persuade leadership of US or US political class, influential groups in US political class, to move this direction, right? Because it will be beneficial for both sides. But I mean, there are more radical forces in US, right? There are more radical forces in US that have different agendas. They don't want no cooperation. They want complete dominance, by the way. Neocons in US are not about cooperation. They want complete, unchallenged domination, right? And they are unwilling to acknowledge objective reality, that they are physically not in a position to have such a claim, right? Or such an ambition. US economy is in decline, US military is in decline, right? And the reputation of US is just non-existent. They have no positive reputation. US worldwide has, I mean, is seeing as one of the most dangerous countries, if not the most dangerous country, right? And maybe with very few exceptions, no one actually has any respect for US as a state, but currently, right? Even in Europe, by the way, people hate US and disrespect US, right? Even though they are using US and abusing US big time, but still they have no respect for that country. So that's the logic, I guess, behind this policy of the Russian president to somehow manage and establish good working relationships with US. It's a practical take. It's practical take. I understand this logic, right? Only question is how to find true partners, by the way, in US, right? Partners that you can trust. I mean, now there is talks about America First group forces, MAGA movement. Seems like US citizens really fed up with these forever wars, and I mean, they are living in US, right? They are observing that infrastructure is crumbling, social fabric is stretched beyond limit. There is issues with every possible direction, and while this is happening, instead of being focused on these issues, government is all about these foreign wars, right? And I can understand why majority of US citizens fed up with this nonsense, right? And they want America to be prioritized. They want interests of their people of America to be prioritized. I understand that absolutely, and there is a hope. There is a hope that this demand from public will create answer, respond to that, and maybe America first groups will actually become a dominant force in US, right? And there is a kind of struggle between America first and neocons, America first and Zionists, their lobby. And I don't know which side will win, by the way. I mean, today's news that US is transferring 3,000 plus cruise missiles to control territory, I mean, to this terrorist regime is a bad news because it's a signal. Bad news for many reasons, from military standpoint to political and geopolitical standpoint, because it signals that America First forces are weak, by the way. And neocons and neocon allies, including globalists, are strong. That's what this decision signals to me personally, and therefore, I think Russian President Vladimir Putin will have to will have to take a new look on his stance on topic of relationships with US, because I don't think there is a people in US political class now that you can actually deal with, reach some agreements, and rely on and believe that this group will actually honor the agreement, whatever it is, and be able to implement it, right? Because why on earth Trump didn't veto this decision, man? Why on earth his administration or this America First forces did not veto this decision to transfer these thousands of cruise missiles to the regime, and by doing so, to jeopardize whatever chances there was in terms of normalizing with Moscow. I mean, why they allow this to happen? Because they are weak. That's the only explanation, because they are weak. Neocons are strong, globalist allies of neocons are strong, Zionists are strong, but America First force is weak and just unable to pursue with their declared policies even. I mean, they're just too weak, man. That's it. And this is my answer, Dylan. It makes sense for Moscow and Washington to be partners and even allies, by the way. It makes sense. It will be good for both countries. It will be good for this world, right? But yet again, I see no groups of, formidable force in US with whom Moscow can actually cooperate, reach agreements, and then be sure that this group will honor the agreement and then manage to manage to implement it, right? So, probably Russian president will have no option but to do some revision of his stance in regards to relationships with the collective West in general, US also, and European states also. It's unfortunately we just see no forces there that can be trusted, or it's wow, seriously. Frank Black is commenting, some Mercedes cars will have BMW motors, no joke. Seriously, wow, how this is even possible, man? These are, of course, giants of German car industry, and by the way, I mean, decline of both Mercedes and BMW is just too visible, isn't it? But I didn't expect things to be this bad. Mercedes no longer produces like decent enough motors for its vehicles, or what kind of collaboration is that? And by the way, remember some 20, 30 years ago, vehicles from Germany were actually built with a decent quality. Man. I myself had like twice BMW. First, my car was Opel, German vehicle, and then I had two BMWs. They work perfectly well, by the way, those cars, right? And I'm talking about for quite a while ago, while I was living in Georgia, and now, and those vehicles were made with their purpose to last long. And now you take these modern BMWs and Mercedes, and if you are strong enough, you might take your finger, by the way, and just made hole with your fingers in those cars, modern ones. That's how thin this aluminum or whatever they are using is, man. It's a joke. It's a joke, man. What these companies become compared to themselves some 30 years ago. But I mean, if Mercedes is using BMW's engines, that's I mean, is it you sure this is the case? I mean, how what the hell, man? These are main competitors, right, on the market, and I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, and I'm not happy about it. By the way, I mean, I don't want no European economies to suffer because that means the suffering of the ordinary people like us, right? Uh, but take a look at the policies of the European leadership. Why people in Europe don't wake up and demand some changes, man? I don't know. Oh, dear friends, let me remind you that this is a fundraising stream. This is big community chat, and as you see, I take my time. Unlike work days when I'm just joining community chat for like little while. On Sundays, it's a big community chat. I take my time to scroll through comments, and also it is a fundraising. So if you want to support her, my project, this is the time to do it. Any day is the time to support, of course, but you can do it today through. All the links are in description box, by the way, and plus you can use a super chat feature on Rumble or subscribe to my Rumble channel, become premium subscriber there, or on Patreon. By the way, if anybody subscribes, I will receive notification on that. I should receive notification on that. Also, Dylan is commenting: U.S. military-industrial complex makes junk, over-engineered stuff. I will say U.S. military-industrial complex makes over-engineered stuff that breaks down more often than not, and this is one of the ways, one of the main ways how this military-industrial complex makes additional money on already sold inventory, right? They over-engineer stuff, and doing so, they know that something will always break down, and they will have through third parties or anyhow, but they will have additional income, and I guess they are making more money on the service of these over-engineered weapon systems than during the sale itself, actually. And Dylan is also commenting that Europe won't be buying American overpriced military garbage. They will be forced to buy. I mean, probably Washington will use its leverage to force them to buy this contract. This delivery of cruise missiles to 3,000 plus cruise missiles from U.S. to Turkey controlled territory will be paid by European taxpayers. Contract is for 800 plus million, right? Um, and the Europeans gonna pay for it, as it is usually the case. It's always either American taxpayers that are paying or European taxpayers. And I think U.S. will force European political class to buy American weapons. I don't think anybody in U.S. military-industrial complex is happy with the relatively recent decision of EU to invest about trillion into military-industrial complex. They would love to have most of those money for themselves, right? And they will use whatever leverage they have over the European political class to make sure this is exactly what will happen, to force basically them to buy American tanks, American infantry fighting vehicles, American planes, and everything else. And they will, by the way, and they will. Just take a look, Dylan. Take a look how many European countries were forced to buy F-35s when they don't have to, right? Europe itself produces good enough planes, by the way. France does, and the European consortium does, right? Rafale, Eurofighter. Sweden does produces good quality, by the way, fourth generation fighter jets like Saab. And nevertheless, European countries, many of them, were forced to buy these F-35s. Why, man? It's garbage. Even in US, by the way, US pilots hate that plane. That's how over-engineered that garbage is, actual garbage, is, and unreliable. And pilots, by the way, there was instances when pilots were poisoned by the plane, right? This oxygen system was so unreliable that people were passing out just like that. And I believe one of the F-35s crashed because of, at least one of the F-35s crashed because of this unreliable oxygen system. It's overly engineered, total garbage plane, right? Ask Brits, by the way, they'll tell you. Recently, one F-35 for several weeks were stationed in one of the Indian airports, right? And could not take off, and the engineers were unable to deal with it for several weeks straight. And now another one, also a British F-35, is docked in Japan somewhere, again, due to some technical issues. And I don't know if that second plane was taken off from Japan or not, but, how many European countries were forced to buy this crap? So America has their leverage over the European countries, and they will use it. Well, there was a super chat, dear friends. There was a super chat. Let me share with you this super chat. So there was a super chat on Rumble, and this is it. Thank you very much, Dwayne Cook, for donation and super chat on Rumble. And the comment from Dwayne is, hi, Levan, thank you for your hard work and the time you put into giving us a great geopolitical information. And thanks to your wife and the daughter to support crew. Russia is cutting their head off their snake. Thank you very much, Dwayne, for your kind words. I'll definitely... Annie, yes, thanks to you and to our entire team. So, and yes, we do work as a team, by the way. Anya, my wife, is helping me tremendously, of course, and my kids too, by the way. Me and Nitsa, my old daughter, is on a journalist faculty in one of the universities here. And she's doing good, by the way. And on quite a few occasions, we made together programs that were published on Patreon and Boosty, and we will continue to do programs like that. And of course, younger daughter is also supporting me. She's still in school, and maybe she will choose to become journalist also. I don't know. Thank you very much, Dwayne, for your kind words, sir, good wishes, sir, and for your support, donation through Rumble, a super chat, and yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Russia is cutting the head of snake, and Russia is leading this fight, by the way, against her united evil force that Western ruling class is. Hopefully, we would not be alone for long, and more countries will join this fight. It has to happen because these Western so-called elites are existential threat for all of humanity. For people in the Western countries, people in the rest of the world, they are threat to all of us. I'm 100% convinced on that. Thank you, Dwayne. Let's continue with the chat. Dear friends, my apologies if I somehow miss your question. Nikos is also commenting. Pashinyan came to power through a color revolution, the Rose Revolution. Not the Rose Revolution. Nikos, Rose Revolution was in Georgia, and Saakashvili became president of Georgia after that Rose Revolution in 2003. Pashinyan is a creation of Soros, basically, Soros institutions. He was a journalist, formally at least, writer, and his team, all of them were financed through different Western channels, including Open Society of Soros. And this project was in works for a long time, and Pashinyan became a prime minister through elections. It was no. There was demonstrations in Armenia, by the way, regularly, of course, but nevertheless, Pashinyan was supported by the locals and elected, by the way, which is unfortunate, but you know. But when it comes to Rose Revolution, that was Georgia, and Saakashvili replaced Shevardnadze after that. MRF is asking, is it true that Ukraine and NATO finally managed to destroy their Kerch bridge? No, no. Let me check the news updates. Or is there anything happened while I am streaming? No, I'm checking now about my media outlets. Let me also check some Telegram channels for breaking news. No, nothing had happened. I don't know. Is Western media is reporting that Kerch Bridge was destroyed? I don't know. It's not true, brother. And you cannot destroy this Kerch Bridge, by the way, or Crimea Bridge, as it also called, it's a massive construction. It can be damaged. Yes, as any other bigger construction, but to really destroy Kerch Bridge, you need to use nuclear weapon for that, to obliterate all of the bridge, right? Otherwise, any strike on a bridge with a missile or with a car bomb, as Kiev regime did try to do on several occasions, will maximum temporarily damage the bridge. And that's it, right? Right now, dear friends, there are a number of Telegram channels I can see are reporting that the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed the information about liberation of additional settlement in Dnipropetrovsk region. Filia, settlement Filia was liberated in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This is latest. It's everyday stuff, isn't it, dear friends? New members of our community might be surprised that literally every day, almost every day, I'm reporting about more and more settlements being liberated. But that's exactly what is happening. If new members of community were already receiving news from Western MSM, then it's going to be shocking for them to hear that, well, yesterday several settlements, day before yesterday several settlements, now this Lilia settlement, tomorrow they're going to be reports about liberated more settlements. Of course, it's literally daily stuff, and some people, I guess, don't really realize how big this former Soviet Republic Ukraine is. By the way, by territory, it's almost like a France. Just take a look at their map. By the way, I mean, it might even be bigger than France. So one of the biggest countries in Europe by territory. Where is the map? It's massive, isn't it? Let's take a look at the map, by the way. So MRF, that information is not correct. Wherever you read that news is fake news. Kiev regime did not manage to destroy the bridge. There was quite a number of attacks, by the way, though. Just recently, yet another attempt of Kiev regime to damage Kiev regime and its NATO backers to damage the bridge was thwarted by Russian security services. Manned vehicle was, and a number of individuals were detained that were planning to drove this vehicle over the bridge and then detonate there. According to different reports, there was from 60 to 120 kilograms of their explosives in the car that came to Russia from a number of European states, including, and finally it crossed the border through Georgia, right? But Russian security services were tracking this development, and they neutralized individuals that were involved there in their vehicle itself. It's happened just in last 10 days, by the way. I was reporting about it in my updates. And well, let's look at this, by the way. Take a wow, some issues here with their map, and look at their territory, by the way. Biggest countries in continental Europe are Western Europe, let's say, is Spain, France, Germany is quite big, isn't it? Poland is quite big, and well, Ukraine is not really much smaller than France, for example. It's also massive, maybe bigger than France even. Used to be Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, no anymore though, right? But it's a massive country, and some people may not realizing that this process of liberation of the territories is constant, and some people are not realizing that even though Western propaganda says that it's a stalemate and stuff, Russian forces already, by the way, liberated territories like twice 3 times bigger than Austria, for example, Czech Republic, for example, bigger than Italy, by the way, almost, right? And Italy is not a small country. But yet again, you can imagine scale, how big this creation of the Bolsheviks was, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Bolsheviks took land from Russia, then they took land from Poland, Slovakia, Romania, and then they created this artificial entity on the territories of other countries and other peoples. Right? That's what Bolsheviks did, man. Okay, let's take this map off. And let's continue with the chat. Jumper Asarotri, Jim Pasarotri is commenting. Hi, Luan. Neocon would say Putin's meeting with Trump is a victory because he got to share the stage. I think this logic is ridiculous and misses the point that Russia still seeks good relations. Well, neocons, I agree with you that neocons and other forces that are basically hostile to U.S. people itself, not just to Russia, but to U.S. people. By the way, they will screw every narrative that they would find in conflict with their own agendas, right? No matter how true it is. So of course, neocons will push the narrative that well, Russia is our enemy. Russian president's visit in Alaska was a victory for neocons, let's say, or for whomever, but not the positive step in relationships of the two countries. They will try to insult Russia, right? I saw comments, by the way, that you see that episode when Putin and Trump were walking on this red carpet towards the stage, and at that particular point, B-2 bomber and with their escort of F-35s that was are passing by, flying over, and well, these anti-Russian, anti-American elements, by the way, are still pushing the narrative that, well, you see, we demonstrated their force. I mean, they are weak, and come on, man, this is a gesture, right? Then Russian plane, when leaving with president while leaving the U.S. airspace, was escorted by F-35s. It's a gesture, right? It's, I mean, hardly anybody in U.S. leadership really thinks that they're gonna scare Russian president with freaking B-2, by the way. I mean, come on now, right? But they want to screw everything, absolutely everything, to divert people from points that are actually important. For example, as you mentioned, point that Russia seeks good relationships with the U.S. because it is in interests of the both countries, and I truly believe, sincerely believe, that if somehow Washington and Moscow will be on good terms, that will benefit all of humanity. I truly believe in that. But there is neocons, right? And there is other groups that want to use US as their enforcer in this planet. And unfortunately, they are strong. They have a grip on Washington. They have a grip on media. And they are brainwashing people, millions and millions of people, by the way, to believe in any nonsense, right? So it's a struggle, by the way. It's a very difficult struggle that we are engaged in. I mean, and these hostile forces, I mean, neocons, globalists, and others, I mean, somehow we have to neutralize them. Otherwise, they will screw all of us, right? They truly are existential threat for humanity. Michael Kennedy is also commenting NATO has to cease to exist. That's their long game. I agree with you. NATO has to cease to exist. Ideally, US has to withdraw from NATO and let European states, if they truly think, some of them at least, there that Russia gonna attack tomorrow or day after, let them transform NATO into their European army or something. But let US leave this organization. But one should keep in mind, by the way, that we world faced two world wars, right? Both were provoked by Europeans, and there was several occasions of war between more or less united Europe and Russia, and every time it was this so-called united Europe, almost united Europe, that was attacking Russia. Russia did not want to attack Europe, by the way, right? We should keep that in mind too. There is a historical pattern, isn't it? When Napoleon managed to occupy majority of the European countries, what he did next, he attacked Russia. By the way, there was also another empire at one point in Europe, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, right? And don't take this name as it was Lithuanians, by the way, majority Lithuanians or majority Poles. No, name does not represent what it was actually. But there was, yes, Lithuanian aristocracy or Polish aristocracy was, running the show there. And they attacked Russia too, right? What to say about World War II, Great Patriotic War? Nazi Germany, before attacking Soviet Union, again occupied the majority of European countries, either occupy majority of European countries or submit, or forced to submission, right? And with this united force, they attacked Soviet Union. That is Russia, right? Soviet people and including Russia, right? So it was always Europe that was attacking, not Russia. And I feel sorry for. I feel sorry to see that majority of Europeans or Westerners, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm afraid majority of Westerners are so poorly educated in history, and not just in history, but in history too, that they are ignoring this historical pattern, right? Every time before Europeans attack Russia, local elites there were saying that we have to attack, otherwise they will attack us. And there is a very same rhetoric in Europe right now, isn't it? This aggression towards Russia is being justified with what kind of narratives that, well, if we don't, then they will. Why, man? This was never the case. Russia never attacked. So why would Russia do it now? But Europeans actually did attack Russia, and on numerous occasions. But NATO should cease to exist. I think at least US should get out of that organization, and Europeans let them do whatever they want. By the way, as long as they are not attacking nobody, it's okay. But unfortunately, they will. The European elites, they are destructive force. By the way, they cannot live in peace. That's it. Alexander G is commenting, Ukrainian Flamingo resembles the Antonov Tu-141, and that's probably the basis for their design, V1. Doodlebug probably inspired the Antonov. Well, it does look like Tu-141, a Russian drone, intelligence drone, originally that was. I believe, and V1 too. Subsequently, I mean, V1 is a fall one, right? Cruise missile that Nazi Germany was using to strike London during the Second World War. Plane type of drone, basically, or can you call it a missile, cruise missile? Yeah. And also, by the way, there are reports that this Ukrainian missile is actually a copy of British UAE drone. UK and UAE companies were working on a similar drone, by the way. There is a lot of documents on internet. And we can argue, is it a truly Ukrainian drone, or it's Brits that are providing this drone under the designation of that it's domestically built there in Kiev controlled territory. But UK is involved, by the way, for sure. UK is involved in production of these drones, and I'm afraid if Russian side is not successful to eliminate manufacturing area of this Flamingo cruise missiles and their stockpile, and unfortunately, once this Trump's 2 weeks ultimatum will end, we might see combined large-scale drone and missile strikes on Russia with the Flamingo drones, with these US cruise missiles, with British Storm Shadows, Scalp PGs, French Scalp PGs, and also simultaneously, hundreds of aircraft-type drones that Kyiv regime is launching, formerly Kyiv regime, in reality NATO, to strike deep into Russia on daily basis. I think Russian intelligence is working active to find out where the stockpiles of these Flamingo cruise missiles are and where it's been assembled. If assembly line is in Kyiv controlled territory at all, it could be in Romania, by the way, or Poland, right? Well, might be the case. So hopefully, Russian militaries will minimize or neutralize completely threat. And then, of course, there is Russian air defense systems, by the way. Flamingo is a long-range subsonic cruise missile. And main danger that this Flamingo is posing is that it can carry about 1 ton of explosive material. And you can imagine level of carnage it can cause if this Flamingo will strike, for example, high-rise apartment building. It can completely destroy it, right? So that's the main risk, by the way. For Russian air defense systems, to intercept this missile is no big deal, of course. Or the US cruise missiles. But yet again, if you launch like 500 different type of aerial vehicles simultaneously, you can overwhelm air defenses, right? And probably that's going to be their policy that NATO and their NATO proxy regime will use to strike deep into Russian territory. They will try to overwhelm Russian air defense systems. Otherwise, I mean, these Flamingos or American cruise missiles, it's not a big issue to be destroyed for Russian S-300s and Books and S-400s, right? Same can be said about Storm Shadows and Scalp PGs. Question is where main direction of the attacks are and how many aerial targets are out there, because yet again, you can any air defense system battery can simultaneously launch just certain number of interceptor missiles, isn't it? I don't know what exact number is. For different systems, it's different. And then you need to you have to take some time to reload, right? And that's the window during the which some of the enemy drones or cruise missiles might get through air defense. Otherwise, they're all going to be neutralized, of course. But I agree with you. It does look like Tu-141. Allegedly, I read a few days ago on one of the Telegram channels that it does use this engine from L-39 Checker. It's a Czech-made train plane, isn't it? L-39s. So if true, then maybe it's a Czech engines there. So Czechia is also then involved maybe in production of those missiles, not just UK. You know. And Jim Passarotti is also asking the question: will Flamingo operation meet the same fate as Sapsan missile factory? I hope so. I hope so. If assembly line is on Kiev control territory, then I think Russian militaries will take it out. They're gonna find out where that assembly line is, and then strikes will be carried out. But if assembly line is in Romania, for example, or in Poland, or in any other European country, then well, decision on strike may not be made because it's NATO countries. I mean, Russian president did not authorize until now retaliatory strikes on NATO member states that were directly engaged in this war against Russia. And I don't know, he might change his attitude, but or policy, but it's difficult to say. Will he ever authorize retaliatory strike against military industrial complex or military assets of their NATO member states that are directly engaged with in this war against Russia? He might never authorize such strikes, or he might. We just don't know. Gene HFX is asking, in the US media, there is an increase in the rhetoric surrounding the existence of alien race. Is there a similar increase in Russia? Do you believe? Dear friend, I don't watch Russian or any other TV channels. I don't watch TV in general. I cannot tell you exactly when last time I watched TV, anything on TV, right? All information I have, I receive from internet, right? So therefore, I cannot tell you what Russian TV channels are doing. Do they also focus on topic of aliens or not? I just simply don't know. But they might, because our topic is interesting, isn't it? Many people are interested in astrophysics, in space explorations, in aliens. Um, although I think, by the way, a recent increase in media publications, for example. I don't watch TV, but I read, and I read quite a lot, right? And increase in publications on the topic of aliens in Western media, by the way, in my personal opinion, is also a deception operation. I don't know why, but there is some sort of a deception in a place, in my opinion, and that's why even high-ranking, even public figures in US, for example, just a few days ago, some senator or I mean, Miami or Florida representative, if I remember correctly, was there on Joe Rogan show, and they were talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, dear friends, but I believe Florida representative was on Joe Rogan show and talking about aliens, right? Aliens, and there are some programs in regards to this UFO, unidentified flying objects and stuff. And that person was pushing quite hard the narrative that, well, aliens exist and there is a contact, right, between government or of governments from different countries and aliens. And and that kind of stuff. And you know what? I don't buy in this. I just don't believe in that. That any government on this planet, US, Russia, or any other, is in contact with alien beings. I don't think so. It's some sort of deception, by the way. I don't know why they need this deception. I just don't know, but it's a deception. I don't believe that alien race or alien civilization that is so advanced that it can actually fly, it can conduct intersolar or maybe even intergalactic flights. I don't think that that level of sophistication civilization will have any interest to get engaged with us, by the way. I mean, why would they? It's it makes no sense, right? So I believe they have to be, by the way, maybe tens and hundreds, even thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of life forms out there in space. Must be, right? Because space-time is huge, absolutely huge, by the way. Observable universe is massive, and can you imagine what is beyond observable universe? Maybe there is like 10 times more territory there, more space, right? Or 1,000 times. We just don't know. And there must be like thousands of places where conditions were good enough for life to exist, and then this life to develop into intelligent life form, right? But yet again, if civilization is so advanced that it can actually have intersolar or intergalactic flights, then why would they have any contact with us? Difference between our intelligence is probably even bigger than difference between us and the ants. So why would they waste time talking to us, man? What is the point? What they gonna learn from us? Nothing, right? If some such civilization will come across of our existence, they might observe, like, okay, some civilization there on a beginning, on the first stage of development. For them, probably that's how we look, and they're okay. That's all, right? They will make some information. They will put some information in whatever catalog they might have about life in the universe, and they will go away because that's it. Well, we are just too. I mean, humanity. We have this feature, isn't it, that we are just too arrogant quite often, and somehow we think that we are that important that, well, aliens. I mean, if they come across, they're gonna impress and they're gonna talk to us. And why, man? Why? We have not achieved much really as a humanity. We still are killing each other like it's nothing, right? Humanity is still on the level of on the same level as it was in 100 years ago when Nazi Germany was committing genocide, right? We did not really move forward as a human society, human civilization, even a bit in last almost 100 years. But still, we are arrogant enough to think that, well, there is aliens that would not ignore us. They have to talk to us necessarily and share some knowledge with us or something. Why, man? Why? So this is my answer. There must be some stuff out there, for sure. Must be. Universe is just too massive, by the way. We cannot even comprehend how massive this universe is. Only in our galaxy, by the way, there is 100,000 stars. And every star, or almost every star, has a number of planets, right? And those planets then have number of moons, right? And there is also thousands of stars, thousands of rogue planets, by the way, that are just moving around the space with the moons potentially that are not bound to any star, right? They've been kicked out of some solar systems, I guess. And this is just our solar system. Sorry, this is just our galaxy, Milky Way. And there is a billion other galaxies, by the way, right? 100 billion other galaxies out there. So, of course, they're going to be all sorts of life forms, including intelligent one. But civilizations that has reached this unimaginable level of progress that they can actually do in interstellar or intergalactic flights, man. They are so advanced that they would not ever spend a second communicating with us. It's just observation, maybe, but to engage there, no, man. It's just too stupid. Why would a type 2 or type 3 scale civilization on Kardashev scale, even why type 1 civilization on Kardashev scale will waste time talking to us, man? It makes no sense, right? So that's my take. So some kind of deception operation is in place. That's why Western public figures and their media is devoting so much time to topic of aliens and UFO and UFO and that kind of stuff. I think. It's almost 3 hours, by the way. This stream, Ein, we did not manage to reach a goal for usual goal for fundraising. It's usually I mean, for new members, I will say that it's usually like $200 goal for fundraising. We did not manage to reach that today, but nevertheless, many thanks to everybody, of course, for support, for donating to this project. I think Jim Passarotti is also commenting. Did you see Trump press conference when he pulled out their photo of the Trump-Putin summit? I saw a short clip of that press conference, yes, when he was showing this photo and talking that he will sign and give it to someone, something like that. It was, yes, I mean, I don't know what to make of it. He kind of invited Putin to attend the World Cup, of football World Cup, I believe. Yeah, we did not reach a goal, isn't it? Okay, we did not. Maybe next time, maybe next Sunday. So yes, I have seen that video. Chris R is commenting. Trump is selling 3,000 missiles to Ukraine, but just yesterday he restricted use to strike in Russia. He's basically Joe Biden now. Well, that information, Chris, that U.S. that originated from Wall Street Journal, isn't it? That U.S. Is not allowing Kyiv regime to strike different Russian territory with ATACMS missiles. That report was about ATACMS missiles, I believe, specifically. I think this is also deception, part of deception operation, because like already a few months ago, there was reports that Kyiv regime might only have like 20, 30 ATACMS left, right? And probably they did use those missiles by now, and US is in no position to send them more because they themselves don't have it, right? And production of ATACMS missiles were halted quite a time ago. So from practical standpoint, that information that the White House is prohibiting attacks to be launched for strikes deep into Russian territory, from practical standpoint, don't really change much, or if anything, right? Because yet again, there is very few, if any, attacks are left in hands of formerly Kiev regime. In reality, in U.S., in hands of U.S. personnel there in Ukraine, right? And that decision is has no connection to these 3,000 cruise missiles, right? So these 3,000 cruise missiles will be launched there. There was reports that still Kiev regime will have to have authorization to launch those missiles. But this is the case always. Whenever these long-range strikes, either with the drones or the missiles that are conducted, they need not just permission from US, but they need flight paths and targeting data. Without it, without US providing directly or through Firewise partners, or directly or through, let's say, UK, for example, Kiev regime would not be able to launch anything whatsoever, right? So that information that they still have to ask permission also changes nothing, because they are relying on US military intelligence, satellite navigation, and targeting data and flight paths constantly. Every day when they are launching drones, they are using US satellite navigation and US intelligence. Maybe they are receiving this intelligence, this information from not directly from US, but through, yet again, through other NATO countries that US shares this information. But from practical standpoint, it changes nothing for Russia, right? It's still US intelligence that is used, and and on topic of Trump is basically becoming Joe Biden yet again. I mean, he went even further than Joe Biden ever did. Biden did not authorize transfer of US long-range cruise missiles. There was discussion during the Biden administration about long-range cruise missiles to be sent to Kiev regime, even about Tomahawk missiles to be sent. But Biden's administration did not approve that. Trump's administration did. So, I mean, he's actually more hawkish and more bloodthirsty, it looks like, than Biden was. I mean, it's crazy, but that's how it is. Barner account is commenting, not in my backyard. They don't care. I agree with you. I agree with you absolutely. I mean, that's the attitude. That's the attitude from majority of societies in the West, and I guess not just in the West. I still don't understand why Russia is alone, or almost alone, by the way. I mean, there is North Korean support, of course, we know about it, and Iran also provided support to Russia in terms of military assistance, right? And when it comes to other countries in this world that were all about multipolarity, multipolar world, and so on, why those countries, even if Russia did not ask directly for military assistance, why those countries are not initiating assistance when they know Russia is fighting their fight too, I don't know. Probably their attitude also is, not in my backyard, so we just don't care. That's what they think too, I guess. Yeah, friends, I can continue this live stream like for another hour or two until our goal of fundraising will be reached. But is there a point in that? I don't think so. So I don't know. I don't know. So therefore, if I may, I will end live stream now. We had a good conversation, isn't it? It's almost 3 hours. This stream is lasting. And so, dear friends, if I may, I will end this stream now. Thank you all. I mean, Tom Fletcher is commenting China and Russia are supporting Russia buying their oil. Yes, I mean, one way, yes. In one sense, yes, it is a support. Obviously, it is a support, right? I always said that countries that still maintain economical cooperation with Russia despite the Western pressure, of course, helping Russia. No doubts about that. But we should also keep in mind that these countries are helping themselves too. It's a business, right? This oil trade and any trade, by the way, any trade is a business. It's economical activity, right? It's beneficial for both. It benefits Russia, it benefits China, it benefits India. It is the case always, right? No matter which two countries are trading. But what I mean by uh, I'm quite specific, isn't it? When it comes to support topic, I'm specific that I think countries should provide military assistance too, even if Moscow is not asking openly, directly. Well, they know it's a struggle for humanity, isn't it? They know Russia is engaged in the war and defending not just itself but whole of humanity by doing so, right? And unfortunately, these countries worldwide, outside of the collective West, by the way, that are all about multipolarity. Unfortunately, those countries are not assisting Russia militarily, and military assistance would be helpful. It could be different. I mean, uh, there is a military assistance and military assistance. There can be different ways to assist, right? Some countries could send their troops, not even openly, by the way. They can designate their troops as NATO does, as NATO countries do, by the way. Troops from our other countries, Russian allies, let's say, can be released from duty for time being. They can sign up for private military company and send to Russia to support, right? It's technical stuff. It can be done if one wants to, right? So there is a possibility to help with the manpower. There is a possibility to help with the equipment, right? Military equipment. If China would give Russia 1,000 tanks, for example, would not be helpful? Of course it would, right? If China would transfer to Russia 1,000 pieces of artillery systems, would that be helpful? Of course it would, right? If China would send their munition, will it help? It helped, right? So that's what I'm talking about, by the way. Maybe Russia is in a position to carry on this fight and defeat this evil force that Western ruling class is all along. And we will win this war, by the way, no matter war. I have no doubts about it. But from allies, I mean, it would be nice if allies would stand shoulder to shoulder to our next to our shoulders, soldiers, and fight too. That's all I'm saying. You know, that's all I'm saying. By the way, I mean, we are in fight, right? So come and fight together. But it's not happening, not yet. But maybe things change. Maybe things will change. By the way, maybe the situation will change. Or I don't know. But anyways, anyways. Malina is commenting, I think it's even worse. They are helping their enemy. Let's just look at the example of Serbia, which has done almost everything for Western managers except for not recognizing Kosovo. I mean, I can see your point, Malina. I can see your point. Serbian military industrial complex, despite warnings from Moscow, still is engaged in supporting this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, isn't it? They're using different means to support, but they do support. So, yes, I mean, it is what it is. I'm just saying that it would be nice to see our allies fighting shoulder to shoulder with our soldiers. That's all I'm saying. You know, economical cooperation, yes, great, but it's beneficial for all sides, right? And this is a fight. This is war, by the way, war that Russia is engaged against evil force, and you know, just to watch this fight from outside, from distance, I don't think that's exactly how true allies should act, man. But yet again, this is my personal take. Some members might agree with me, some don't. But Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, those missiles will be given on paper only. It's a big money laundering scheme. Well, I don't know, Nidish. I don't know. 3,000 missiles, hundreds of them probably already been built and most likely delivered. I don't think this is a purely money laundering stuff. I'm afraid those missiles already are there on Kiev controlled territory. And once this latest Trump's ultimatum will expire, probably they will be used against us. So, dear friends, this is it for now. Thank you all once again. More than 3 hours this stream. So we had a good conversation, isn't it? Good, long conversation. Thank you all for your comments, for your attention, for your time. Many thanks to all the members of our community who supported, participated in financially in this fundraising. We did not reach the goal of $200, but nevertheless, there was some donations for channel, and it will help to maintain this project for next week. And so, yes, many thanks. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and take care. Bye for now.